everybody, back for a Monday evening here at the Meteorology Lab, and we've got another clear sky. That system, it blew through on Sunday, and we're just left with nothing to look at really. Can't even do a time lapse, so I'll just have to give you a bunch of charts here and maybe go through a little bit of a workshop. Maybe this would be a good evening to do a little sounding analysis. Maybe we can give that a try. I did want to let you guys know that I've had a little bit of a dilemma here. Like, I need time to program the next release of Digital Atmosphere, and I've got 2 forecasting books that have to be completed. And these nightly webcasts and the special features and everything, they take a pretty good chunk out of my evening. And I had thought about shutting the channel down on the weekends, or the weekdays, but I realized that's probably not fair to a lot of you, and taking 5-day breaks, it's not a good way to grow the channel. And I like coming on here and seeing 30 or 40 people in the chat. That's what keeps me coming back every evening and doing it all over again. So what I really need to do at this point is ask for contributions, and it's optional, and I've got a pretty easy way of doing that. I went onto Patreon and set up a page here, and if you want to be a regular donor, that will help out a lot. And I guarantee if this channel does start generating funds, we can finally upgrade the internet, and that'll allow for some HD streams, because we're capped here at 6 megabits per second. And if we do that, I'll be able to do some special features and definitely some seminars. So keep that in mind. This will be running every evening at the end of the credits. So if you don't catch that, you can always get that next time around at the end. Okay, let's head into the forecast here, and let me show you this cold front coming south. This air mass source region up at the top of the map is from Canada. So not really a Pacific system coming down. The leading edge of that is from about the Quad Cities out to western Kansas. And then in the wake of that, in Texas itself, ahead of that, we've got some recycled Pacific air. There's been a little plateau air from New Mexico and Arizona kind of mixed in. So dew points have come up a little bit. And then going out east, we can see a little bit of that remaining part of that tropical air mass over Florida here. And that front we've been tracking over Texas the past couple of days, that is, let's see, I'm trying to figure out where that is. Dew points are a little bit suppressed in this area, so I think we're looking at that cold front kind of in this area right here. And we can see dew points in that moist sector are in the mid-50s or mid-60s, and that's what's streaming northward towards Georgia and the Carolinas. And we'll take a look at the radar momentarily. The actual charts, let me bring that up real quick. Here's the 500 millibar analysis. And the first thing that we see is that there is kind of a long wave trough across the western U.S. I mean, if you start out looking at this chart, you see a ridge right here, a trough right here, a ridge right here. But the large-scale hemispheric pattern shows kind of a depressed area in here. So basically we have a long wave trough over the central U.S. and superimposed on that these smaller scale waves moving through the pattern. And here's one of them coming through the they both start with CA, California and western Nevada area. And one mistake a lot of people make is they look at this trough here and they look at the trough there and they think nothing is in between. But what's actually happening in here is there's a ridge that's being suppressed by the curvature of this flow in here. So that's going to be somewhere in here. So in between a shortwave ridge, you're always going to find, or a shortwave trough, you're going to find a shortwave ridge, like you see right here. And sometimes the vorticity charts will bear that out a little bit better. Here's the infrared satellite imagery. And we can see a little bit of thunderstorm activity over the Florida Panhandle. And it appears that NAM forecast that we saw last night has pretty much nailed this in terms of the forecast ingredients, the CAPE, and the better supercell parameters. I think we brought up a few charts showing that. It was showing that the best ingredients were focused on this area right here. And further to the south, I also noticed this over the Yucatan. Pretty impressive thunderstorm area there. I would love to be on the ground there looking to the east at these towers. And you can see by the animation that these storms are sheared. It looks like there's some good bulk shears in place there. So we've probably got a subtropical jet helping to ventilate these storms. And we might be able to take a look at the Mexican radar. Mexico used to have kind of a reliable weather radar network, and due to all the civil unrest there, a lot of them have been, especially up north, have been shut down. But I think a few of them are up. And the very first page I go to, it's just pulling up Weather Channel links and stuff like that, but I know it's on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Radares, which is Radar Mexican, and then we're going to go to Site MX. And that may, yeah. So this goes to the Weather Service page, the Mexican Weather Service page here. And that'll bring up the active radars in that area. And we may be able to look out and get a look at that thunderstorm area. Okay, waiting for the page to come up. I may have to bring this up and explore. It may not be very friendly to Firefox here. So let me see if I can get that going here, because I am very interested in that thunderstorm area. You usually don't see that because it's very difficult to get strong flow going in that region. Okay, I don't know if this page is going to come up or not. I'm in Explorer and we're still getting the same problem. And let me see here. I'm trying to read Spanish here. Okay. I think I'm getting kind of lost here on these Mexican pages here, but if anybody knows any links, feel free to pass it on to me, and we'll try to bring up some images there on the Yucatan. I know there's a radar in Cancun, and there may be one also out in the Veracruz, Tampico area, somewhere in there. Okay, let's look at the thickness chart. We see that there's not really any super concentrated thickness gradients. There's a little bit up here in Nebraska with that cold front that's pushing south through here. And we've got another gradient in the Four Corners area. So these are areas where we're going to need to watch for fronts, both on the surface charts and in the model data. And looks like here in Virginia, maybe a weak warm front, maybe a cold front through here. So maybe this is the layout of the frontal system out in the southeast. And we have to go pretty far offshore to find the next system coming in, and that looks like it's located right here. So likely our analysis out in the North Pacific will look something like that there. Okay, we saw clear skies out there this afternoon, so let me pull up the Fort Worth sounding. And nothing from the University of Wyoming, so I'm going to fall back on UCAR. And the latest chart I have from the Radioson side is from this morning. So it shows our steep lapse rates have kind of relaxed a little bit. We've got some warmer air moving in aloft with that ridging kind of building in. And we've got a little bit of a nocturnal inversion here, this being a morning sounding. And then if we take the afternoon temperatures, and we'll refer back to the surface chart, we saw it was 78 over 47 this evening. So modifying the sounding, we're going to get a setup something like that. And so if we try to lift a parcel based on this. This kind of shows us that we have some pretty significant convective inhibition. So this is all negative area here. So no chance of getting any thunderstorms on a day like this. And to actually do that, I can modify this and see what kind of dew points we need. You basically construct the sounding backwards. To get a thunderstorm, I'm going to need to follow a wet adiabat, kind of like this. And that gives us our LCL there, and then we can drop back. And we can see that we need a mixed moisture profile, at least near 50 degrees. In fact, if we only had like 55-degree dew points, we could probably get a thunderstorm pretty easily out of this air mass. So you see that there, no capping. Okay, we'll take a look up at Norman and see if we have an evening sounding from them. Nothing there. Yeah, unfortunately, it's harder to get these soundings at 0Z because of daylight savings. It's only an hour and 11 minutes past the sounding launch time, so there's just not much available there. So I'm going to refer back here and maybe pull up the Norman sounding from UCAR, and again, we have to use this morning's sounding profile. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to lift a 77/55 parcel. That would be like the ingredients we have now, plus a little moisture added in. And you can see we can very easily get showers going with a pattern like this. So the main thing that's stopping us, as you can see, is the lack of moisture in the low levels. And also, yeah, I should mention, also a little bit of dry air aloft. That can also be a big factor that gets entrained in the mixing and the rising parcels, and that can be a negative factor. And then we'll look at the dynamics here. And before I go further, this will probably be a good stopping point. And let's see, we've got Mark and Ryan here, and Alexi, Fun with Tech, Ron Chalfant, Kevin McKinney's here, Ryan Toomey's, Mick is here, and Andrew. Ryan says low over the Rockies building up, looks aggressive. Yeah, we should see that coming up shortly on the dynamics here. Hello from Megan John. Thanks for the comment. Storms says yo. And Mike Estwick checking in. Appreciate Andrew saying that you'd be happy to help out. For those of you just tuning in, I'm going to run a Patreon link in the credits where if you want to throw something in as a tip, you'll be able to do that. Eddie W. checking in. Kevin McKinney says 43 years ago today, the super outbreak over much of the U.S. east of the Mississippi. Yeah, that still remains, I think, the biggest tornado outbreak in 24 hours in history. Something like 130 tornadoes. Ryan says Cancun has Doppler radar near the airport. Alan Robinson checking in, and 46 and cloudy in Denver, where Mike Estwick is. And Derek Seymour says, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And Ryan mentions that smn.cna.gov.mx, that's where we just were. So I think the page we were accessing either did not have the information, or maybe their radars were just down. Maybe I can give that a shot at the very end after we look at some of these graphics. So anyway, here's our dynamics this evening. We can see this good trough, very strong trough digging in over the Las Vegas, Kingman, Grand Canyon area. So the strongest destabilization occurring in the Four Corners area in northern Arizona right there. And since this is an area of strong wind flow on the backside of this trough, we're going to see this kind of dig in and kind of move towards this area here. So that's a kind of a quick rule of thumb you can use. And we can also see that ridge I was talking about earlier, right there, in between the trough and the next downstream trough. So a little bit of this ridging is helping to create some subsidence out in front of it. This is kind of an area of anti-cyclogenesis, and we're seeing mass spreading apart in the low levels and air descending in the mid levels. Okay, so over the next 48 hours, we see that trough move into Texas. And I think this is a little further south than what the models had been expecting. So this will be the main area under the gun for midday tomorrow. We can see that's mostly Oklahoma. And by evening, trough moving up through the Tulsa area. So there's the shortwave trough right there. There's the lift out ahead of it. And we've also got not only the upper dynamics from these waves, we've also got the arrival of strong winds aloft. So if I draw 50-knot winds, there's the 50-knot ice attack. The 70-knot ice attack is back in here. And not only does that amplify the vertical motions that you have, that also helps add to the bulk shears in a storm situation. So you end up with updrafts and downdrafts much more strongly separated, and you get longer-lived cells. Okay, so by Wednesday going into Thursday, we're going to see that trough moving out into the Midwest area and Tennessee, Kentucky, Atlanta. Northerly flow comes in behind, some anti-cyclogenesis on the backside here. Then we stay under this ridging through much of the weekend, so pretty quiet in the central U.S. The next trough takes kind of a northerly path into the Dakotas and near Nebraska there. Then, towards the 11th or 12th, we get our next big trough, and this affects most of the plains here. And this will probably come just after a period of air mass recovery. Maybe the Gulf will start opening up and spreading some moisture northward. And if that's the case, we should be primed for some severe weather on the plains. The trough lifts northeastward into the Great Lakes by the 14th and 15th, and then that's out of the picture, and next trough towards the 17th, that's going to be more of a northern plains situation there. Okay, let's take a look at the radar real quick, because I know we have some thunderstorms there in the Florida region. And there we go. Looks kind of like a MCS here. And I haven't looked at any warnings, so I'm not really too sure what's going on with that in terms of severe weather. But maybe we can bring up some GR Level 2 analyst images and get a better look at these storms here. Okay, so I think we're going to need maybe Eglin. We'll pull that up here. We'll start the image download. And while that's coming in, I'll take one more look here and see if I can get that Mexican radar going. September 2009. I don't think this is going to be very easy, so I will try a couple more of these links real quick. Nope. No luck here trying to get Mexican radar, and we're just kind of coming up empty here. So maybe I'll try to get that fixed up here when I get some time this week. All right, so back to our radar in the U.S. here. We wanted to look at that MCS set over the Tallahassee area. And it looks like just kind of a multicellular complex here. We do have some discrete cells in there, so there is the possibility for a few strong storms in that. But if we want to kind of see what the ingredients are that are feeding into these storms, what the air mass is like, this is a good use for some of the radar products or some of the model products at pivotalweather.com. This is what I use for a lot of the models. So I'm going to switch this over to the southeast U.S. Okay, so there's our ingredients right now. So we can see some 70s dew points lurking just off the coast there. And I'm going to set this cursor right out ahead of the line, and that'll give me kind of a proximity sounding for what's going on. Okay, so what kind of ingredients do we have? Looks like our instability is rather limited out in that warm air mass. 0Z, so it's got kind of a cold temperature profile, but even with mid-70s, looks like our instability there is kind of problematic. We do have a little bit of shear in the low levels here. We can see that on the photograph up in the top right. And that's because at the surface we have winds out of the south at 15. And then up at 850, 925 millibars. At 925 millibars or 1 kilometer, we've got winds out of the southwest at 40. And that's just enough to squeak out a little bit of storm relative helicity. And we can kind of see that right here on the wind profile. I'm going to bring up one more station a little bit east of Tallahassee. And again, what we're doing is we're looking at the air mass out ahead of these storms and figuring out how favorable this is for convection. Okay, so this looks a little bit better. I suspect that last sounding was influenced by convection. But even here, if we do a partial lift, we've got very minimal instability here. And that's because there's simply a lot of warm air aloft. And we can see that there's a little bit less storm relative helicity at that point there. And then one other thing you can look at real quick is in the bottom right, this significant tornado parameter index. You can look at these top 4 numbers here. And this will give you kind of a quick look at which parameters are favorable for severe weather and which aren't. So your low values, that's going to be your CAPE and LCL here. So apparently we're looking at kind of a dry condition here with limited instability. It's also got the effective storm relative helicity kind of low and appears to be sampling kind of a limited layer here from half a kilometer down to 0. And then the bulk wind, that's the only good thing that the situation has going for it. And we can certainly see that on the wind profiles here. We've got 60 knot winds aloft and light winds down at the surface, so that's going to allow for some good ventilation of those storms. And so the dominant mode, based on everything I've seen here, you would look at that and be thinking in terms of multi-cell storms that we got here. Okay, so it's probably time to head into the forecast. So we'll pull up the GFS here and get that all set up for you. Okay, for tomorrow, we've got this low pressure area setting up in Oklahoma due to that front coming out of the Four Corners area. Remember that upper level system we had in this area here? That's pushed eastward. So we're seeing cyclogenesis in this region, and the surface fronts are looking kind of like that. And we're probably going to have a dry line in place, something like that right there. So the best location for storms, if there was enough moisture and instability, we would be looking maybe just south of the low. And then another possible area is going to be along the warm front and close to the low itself, so right in that area. In this southern area, this is very dependent on how much moisture is available. And since the air mass has just been kind of cleaned out yesterday and overnight, the moisture return tomorrow is going to be very limited. So one thing we can do is we can look at the NAM forecast, because this is a convective model, and this will kind of give us an idea what's going to be going on. Okay, so there's the current picture, what we have right now. Okay, that's it right there. And you can see that the winds are pretty light across Texas. This is the return flow trying to set up. And these here, these are 60s dew points along the Interstate 45 corridor. So overnight, what we see, a very modest return, moisture return northward along and east of I-35. And then by noon, this is the setup. We can see the low coming together in southwest Oklahoma. We can see the dry line kind of set up right there. And then as the day wears on, by 18Z, we've seen we see the moisture continue to move northward, but it's been eroded. It's been mixed out, it appears. You see, watch this from 12Z. There's 15Z, and we have 60s almost to the Greenville, Texarkana area, and then we kind of lose that there. So it appears that there's a lot of heating and mixing and probably not much depth to this moisture. So all that we have up in Oklahoma by convection time is mostly mid-50s dew points, kind of focused on this area here. And we see very little convergence along that dry line. Dry line is located right here. So basically your best chances of significant weather are going to be right there northeast of the low in northern Oklahoma. So somewhere around Stroud, Muskogee to Tulsa. Then finally, the system starts picking up some moisture up in Arkansas. We may start getting some precip along the front, but this is kind of too late for Oklahoma and Texas. So moving forward, there we go. There's the maps for Tuesday, then Wednesday. For Wednesday night's forecast, we're going to see a system from the Ohio River Valley down to Texas. Warm front up in the Ohio River Valley. And we do get some squall line activity in the southeast right there, ahead of that moisture return along the leading edge of that front there. Then we kind of get a break, and there's a high pressure area bringing some cooler air down from the Great Lakes. Then our next system comes out of the Pacific after the weekend. Or actually, that's during the weekend. You can see it coming through Las Vegas and Salt Lake City right there. Crosses the Rockies Sunday, and then we find it emerging out in the Dakotas area around the 10th. Then we pick up the leading edge of that down here. Gulf is open, so we do have a little bit of moisture advection, and the storms that go up along that front looks like they will be getting some inflow. So looks like our chances for convection are going to be going up Sunday night going into Monday right there. Then the Gulf really starts picking up here. Next wave comes out of the Rockies, and here's the leading edge of that front. Dry line will probably be set up here likewise out in West Texas. And then by Wednesday the 12th in the evening, we're going to be looking like this. So here I think we've got a pretty decent potential for some severe storms. Gulf has definitely been open for a while, and the main dynamics look like they're coming out of the Rockies. Cold front looking like that right there. So probably some severe weather potential there, central Nebraska down to the Oklahoma area. So again, this is going to be Wednesday the 12th. Then that'll move eastward on the 13th and 14th. Then one northern plains system comes through. And then we get to the end of the run. Okay, I know that was kind of a lot to look at, but I think we finally got through that. Let me take one last look at the chat here. Sue says, my evening broadcast did not notify me or pop up in the YouTube list till 9:04. Yeah, I was kind of late putting up the when I went to schedule the webcast, I did that at about 7:56 Central, about 4 minutes before it started, so I was kind of a little bit late there. Sarah Wood there in Indiana says, rainy off and on there. Clouds look kind of interesting. Tallahassee, severe warning earlier. Lizards layer is here. More snow in New Hampshire. And Mike Estwick was going to snap a picture of those clouds in Denver as the system rolls in. Yeah, you can definitely send those along, and I've still been meaning to put Victor Cabo's photos on, and I tried to do that earlier, but I just completely ran out of time this evening. I'm going to try again tomorrow morning. I don't know if Victor is here, but I do apologize for that. I am going to try to get his photos on from last week of that storm that went through Texas. All right. I think that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.